Thank you for tuning in to watch our Invest Tampa Bay 5th Anniversary Launch Conference. You're about to watch panel number 1, Smart Growth, the developments, projects, and actions that have and will continue to shape Tampa Bay. Enjoy.
All right, good afternoon. We can do better than that. Good afternoon. All right, well, I'm excited to be here to share with not only these amazing leaders in our region, but we're all dear friends as well. So we'll have a little fun this afternoon. So I'm going to start with the entire group, kind of taking a look at where we are. And just for the audience's viewpoint, this is an opportunity to get perspectives of both the public and private sector to weigh in on some of the growth that we've been seeing here in Tampa Bay. So considering how the wider economy of the region, can you guys talk about the coordination between the public and private sector and what's been the key elements to our region's economic growth? And that's for anybody that wants to take the first question.
I'll go ahead and take a stab at that, Demetria. So University Area CDC is actually a public-private partnership, so that question is really posed for us well. And we saw that, bringing the right partners to the table, specifically, making sure that the business sector is involved, making sure that we also have, government involved. And I'll give you a really concrete example of that. If you aren't familiar with the community that we serve, it's right outside of the University of South Florida, and the residents told us that they wanted a park. And so we said, okay, we'll be the first organization that builds a private park for the residents. So we thought just green space, right? And they said, we want a park because we want to make sure our kids have a chance to play outside because they come home and they lock themselves in and they don't have that opportunity. We also want to meet our neighbors and form that social collective efficacy that's missing. And so we set out to build a park. We just thought green space, but we brought that public-private sector to the table. We brought, government, we got federal funds, we got local Hillsborough County funds, we also got Bank of America, we got the Raise Foundation. I mean, the list goes on and on. In a park, then turned into a teaching kitchen and classroom, a organic garden, a playground, walking trails, fitness equipment, a pond that we stock, and now we're cutting the ribbon for a splash zone. And so that just shows you the power of the public-private sector. And if you're able to leverage that, we could do so much more because we're stronger together.
It was great to hear the optimism in the opening remarks. I think it was 60+% are very optimistic. And I think that that's true because we live in a great region. And I think we're generally positive. I want to probably say it's probably, the weather's probably pretty nice that day, and there was a lot of, maybe it was Gasparilla Day, I don't know. But it's great to be optimistic. But I think it's important to look back a bit about how we got here, and particularly how this coordination question really came to fruition. Many in this room, or some in this room probably know, back in the early 90s, there was a coordinated effort to bring a lot of BPO or back office or, let's say HQ2 locations here to the region. And there was a lot of success. And there's some folks in this room that benefited from that success. I see my good friend Vince Cassidy here. When he was with Chase, he was brought here from New York and has never looked back. But some of those jobs, weren't at the level in which really can elevate this community. And we've worked hard to be less of this, back office or secondary market and become a primary market. And an example of that, more modern time, if you will, is our success around tech. Tech was not on the radar nationally, or Tampa Bay was not on the radar nationally when it came to tech. And because of the EDCs, the chambers, the Tampa Bay Partnership, and others, they decided that we really need to get Tampa on the map. And we have some great successes of that. Certainly migration trends were happening here pre-COVID. They were escalated during COVID, but we've got ID.me and the Rapid Sevens of the world, combined with Pfizer and other Double Line Capital and others that may not be tech-centric, ARC as well. But that didn't happen by mistake. That took years of planning, years of coordination, and I think it really speaks to the evolution. And Forbes ranked us as the #1 emerging tech city in the country 2 years ago. So tech has arrived. And so when we look back, I think it took longer than some of us would have liked to have really modernized our workforce here. But as we start to think about the future, I think it's important that we can talk about the success that we had and continue to see that today.
Thanks, Mike. Dave?
So my entire career in DC, in development and commercial real estate, when you look at creating a major development, the hurdles in DC to entitlement, design, entitlement, construction, and delivery are very different than what they are here in Tampa. So we've had great success as the developers for Water Street in working with key community stakeholders, whether it's the city, it's the county, in helping us get where we are relative to our phase one, because when you deliver 5.2 million square feet and when you're delivering 5.2 million square feet in phase one, it takes a lot. If you see how the sausage is made, you're thinking this is not going to get done. Well, we got it done, but it couldn't be done without the help of our, of the public sector community, our mayor, the council, city council, the county commissioners, and so forth. And the key is communication, because lacking communication will lead to, issues that will continue to push out your schedule. And we've been very fortunate. If you look at, when Jeff got here in 2010, acquired the Bolts, and to where we are today, it's taken that long, but it's really a short delivery process when you compare ourselves with other, with other cities. So the point is communication and working with key community stakeholders, the public sector, and so forth. And if you look, we're really tied in with the port. I mean, we're right there at Sparkman Wharf. I mean, the port is a partner with us in many respects on the different, the land around Water Street. So we've been very fortunate that the path to development and delivery has been very different here in Tampa, meaning in a very good way as compared to other major markets.
Thank you very much for that. So speaking of the growth, the secret is out that Tampa Bay is a great place to live. And as you know, the partnership puts out an annual report. We're #1 in net in-migration. From you guys' perspective, each of your perspective, what do you see, based on the nature of the projects that you guys are working on? How's that changing our community? How's that growth going to affect the projects in terms of asset class, technical sophistication, just overall style for our community? And that's for Andy.
Yeah, I'll touch on that briefly. I think, it's interesting because of the migration trends, during the pandemic, and I'm fortunate to work all over the country and have some international clients as well. When it comes to negotiating, and I know all of you have office leases or real estate leases, it's like, well, why can't I name my price? Why is my rent going up? Well, it's because people keep moving here, and people want that flight to quality product. And so now we've got folks and occupiers and decision makers here coming in saying, it's less about being in this submarket of Tampa. It's show me all of the products that give me walkability, give me connectivity, that treats my real estate more as an asset than a liability. So that's Water Street, of course. That's Midtown. That's the Heights. But it's also Andrew Wright's West Shore City Center. He took that product over, and where Austin Center used to be, where Union American is, and First Watch. Those are the kind of products that people want to be a part of. And so I think for us, it's really, resetting expectations as it relates to cost, but that these flight to quality products are their own asset class in of itself.
Anybody else want to?
Sure.
Yeah.
So I look at our growth as, I'm going to compare this to baseball. I think we're in the third inning of our growth as compared to other markets like Nashville or Austin. That Nashville may be in the fifth or sixth inning, and Austin's more in the eighth or ninth inning. And there's a lot to learn from those markets. So 5 years ago when I got here, we got on the road and went to study those markets because, best offense is good defense. Understand your competition and what makes them tick, and lessons learned from those markets. And we learned a lot because transportation, which is a whole other issue, Bamitra, I'm sure we may get to.
I wish someone was working on that.
I know. Me too. And I'm glad you are. But when you look at, some of the major issues, some of the Achilles heels of those markets right now are traffic. So we learned a lot. The point is we learned a lot from those markets. We are a growth market. We're an early stage growth market. And a lot of our success, Mike referenced, is the in-migration, the population growth that we're seeing. The EDC numbers now, they kind of vary a little bit. But for Florida, there's somewhere around 800 to 900 move-ins per day into Florida, and about, maybe 90 to 100 to 120 for move-ins into Tampa Bay. I mean, that's serious growth. And that growth is continuing. Now, with that, the word that really is creating the growth here as far as companies are concerned, talent. It used to be the old term, follow the money. Follow the talent, and that's exactly what you're seeing throughout the U.S. But what's happening here with this in-migration, the talent is coming here, and not only that, the public university system in Florida here is damn good. I mean, they're spitting out smart students that years ago they couldn't wait to get out of Florida. Now they want to stay. So what we're seeing is these smart young kids that want to stay here. They want to work for these companies, and as a result of this talent that's here, the companies also want to come here. So we're fortunate that it's this yin and yang between companies coming here for the talent and the talent moving here because of the companies.
Speaking of talent, Sarah, this question is for you. You know, Dave kind of hit on this. The heart of any community is its people and its workforce. There's been a lot of different programs and efforts to work on getting our residents more skilled. Can you talk about what do you think are some of the good efforts that have been made and what you'd like to see in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, our workforce is so incredibly important as we grow as, an economy to scale. And, it's so incredibly important that we have the right people in the room. And I'm really excited about the rooms that I've been sitting in and finally making sure that we do have the right people in the room to have those conversations. So ensuring that we have our education institutions, our universities, but also our community colleges. Those are really important, making sure that the business sector is there, that government is there as well, and that we have these conversations around, what does that pipeline look like? And not just retraining, but recruiting. And I know there's efforts that the Chamber is doing, that the EDC, Tampa Bay Partnership. I mean, we have some really great groups that are out there, on our best interest trying to recruit the talent that's needed. But a conversation that you don't hear a lot of is our youth employment. And so, that age 16 to 24, I mean, there was a staggering number, Bermici, and I think
58,000.
Almost 60,000 of our youth are not employed. And so if you think about that we really need to be investing in our young people and ensuring that, we're giving them those development skills and the ability to be able to have a job and what you get from that, because that's our pipeline of the future. And so, I really think there's an opportunity for us to really focus on that youth employment. And I know a lot of groups are out there working on it, but it's important for us to plan for the future and, looking at what jobs are available, not what we think in the future, but from the future. And so I'm really excited about us continuing to look at that and focusing on the youth employment.
Very well said.
But Mitch, can I add something to that?
Sure.
So you're exactly right. So when I was in Austin, we met with Gary Farmer, who's the head of Opportunity Austin. This is 5 years ago, and we asked him we just sat, and the first question out of our mouths was, "What's the most important thing that you guys have done right?" And he said, "Supporting a very strong community college network." And we were kind of shocked, like, really, that's the first thing out of your mouth? And he said, yes. He said, getting the job, having the education for either avocation or a 2-year degree is the foundation for a community and building from the roots up. So a grassroots effort, and I think Dr. Ken Atwater is doing an amazing job here with HCC, and it's something that we learn from, as I said, we learn from these other communities, but that's it's a foundational importance to what we're doing here.
Well said. Mike, you mentioned earlier about the flight to quality. From your perspective, what makes a high quality office building? And then based on all of our demand, how do you think that's going to impact the types of commercial projects that we see developed here in our community in the future?
Yeah, I think, this terminology, return to office, RTO, seems very negative. It's forcing people. It's creating guidelines. You have to come, if you're Team Orange, you've got to come in on Tuesdays and Thursdays. If you're Team Yellow, I really think that there's a disconnect between employers and employees when it comes to being in the office. Now, if you're TGH, you have people there 24/7, so that's a little different. Or if you're in manufacturing, like Jamie Harden, you can't make custom signs from your living room. Maybe you can, I don't know. But to talk about the office sector, I think hybrid is here to stay. And so let's call it for what it is. Let's create a flexible environment that really puts the employees first. And so what does that mean? It speaks to the product type that I already talked about. It's not mandating folks to be there. It's giving them the reason to be there. It's having the right level of technology. And look, if you're an occupier or you're someone that wants to open up a business here and you, again, view your real estate as an asset, you'll thrive. People want to be here. They want to be part of a culture and an ecosystem, but you've got to do your part. And so I think, the SPPs of the world are going to, hopefully hopefully build more office product. I think you will. I think there's going to be some news on that, right? Sorry, maybe you've already let the cat out of the bag. But we need more of that product type because right now it's in very limited supply. And so if you build it, Dave, I think they will come.
Field of dreams.
So speaking of Water Street, Dave, you guys completed phase one at the end of 2022, which included 5.2 million square feet, 3 hotels, 3 apartment buildings, 2 office buildings, 170,000 square feet of retail. How is this project a model for how sustainable communities will be developed in the future? And in many ways, how do you see your project not only meeting the needs of our community today, but also in the future?
So the sausage, right? Making the sausage. So a lot of planning and effort went into the early stages of really planning this out. It doesn't happen overnight. So as I said, SPP was formed Jeff got here in 2010. SPP was formed in 14. We started then the design and the master planning. You started the road network in 16. We went vertical in 18, and then we completed phase 1 in 22. It was that easy. I'm kidding. But the thing is that there was a lot of thought that went into doing things a little bit differently for a large urban mixed-use development. Yes, it's great that we have strong capital behind us, but we went out and we really did our homework. We got on the road and we looked at precedent, design, architecture, urban planning, all these things that went into it, and then we had a cast of consultants, architects, planners, landscape architects, you name it, that really assisted us in this. And we wanted to do something different. So, yes, we're the first WELL pre-certified neighborhood in the world. We're the first WELL Gold certified community in the U.S. We're LEED certified. We have a wired score number, which is we are wide score platinum. We have a huge walk score, which is great. So, but here's the thing. It takes. Location is everything in real estate, right? And the fact is that we were able to execute at the right time in the right place. It took 3 things, and it's the confluence of these 3 things. It was vision, which is Jeff and Cascade. It was capital, which is very strong, and it was timing. And when we look at COVID in the rearview mirror, COVID was really an inflection point for Florida overall, but also really an inflection point for our development as we were able, you driving, MK and I drive this WELL narrative, suddenly companies wanted to come down here. We had a huge company out of Chicago come down 2 years ago. We're presenting to them. All they wanted to do was talk about wellness, because Mike referenced this, is that we say that Water Street you can use this as it's an asset, not a liability when you're signing a lease. And by the way, when you sign a lease, you're not just signing a lease in an office building, you're getting the entire district. You're getting all the experiential real estate that you do as a result of signing that lease. So, flight to quality is one thing. Flight to experience is certainly another that's very similar. And we're excited about the future, which we're working on now. I hope that answered your question.
It did. Thank you. All right, this is for all of you. We talked about the positive growth that we've had. The future is bright for us as a community. What do you see as emerging? What do you see emerging as prime opportunities as it relates to our growth, and what do you think could slow us down?
Do you want me to start?
Go for it.
So, this is the exciting part, right, is to really think about the future. And you're going to hear John Corus. He's going to have a great panel a little bit on healthcare and healthcare innovation, so I don't want to steal too much thunder. But I talked about tech. That was our North Star. I feel very strongly that our next North Star is life sciences for this region. And it's putting life sciences on the map. When you compare other successful ecosystems around the country, they're all developer-led, mostly developer-led. They're higher cost of living. They don't have a world-class airport. They don't have world-class, connectivity as a region. Ports, the infrastructure is very different. And so for me, it's thinking about how can we get this region to really embrace this? And, we see all the great work that's happening in and around downtown, Tampa and Water Street. But what's happening around us in Pinellas, Pasco County, for example, Spiros, which is a Moffitt-led development. That's a 700-acre campus, bigger than downtown Tampa, that's taking shape. 500 acres of it's developable. The first phase is going to have 2.5 million square feet, backed by roughly $1.5 billion of investment, most of which is private sector investment. A lot of people don't know that's happening. And so when
Bill Cronin knows.
Bill Cronin definitely knows about it, and David Delapart knows about it. But it's really thinking about, you know, these exciting projects, how we can better connect our region together to really get behind this area. I mean, we're an aging population, and we got needs of our neighbors that we got to address. But we are extremely competitive when it comes to the balanced scorecard approach, and I believe it's life sciences. And so I think looking ahead, there's a lot of great industries that deserve our support, but I think this is the next one that we've really got to get behind. And I think we've got the fundamentals to successfully get there, just like we did with tech.
Awesome. Dave?
So I think our community is incredible, and again, we're a growth community, and we're at the very start. There's so many things, yes, you know, healthcare, diversity, inclusion. I mean, all these things are important. I think the one Achilles heel, and I mentioned it earlier, is transportation. I mean, you know, when you look at like Austin and Nashville, they're victims of their own success. They've got this incredible population growth, and they didn't have a solid transportation infrastructure plan put in place years ago to support this emerging and growing population. Lessons learned, folks. That's exactly what we need. So AFT not passing. I mean, you know, there are a lot of initiatives. The $1.75 million grant is great to establish this, to study it, to keep going. So I just think that is our Achilles heel is too strong. I just think it is probably the one most important thing that could impact our long-term future success.
Sarah?
Well, if I didn't talk about housing, I think a lot of people would be disappointed, because I just think, you know, housing is so incredibly important in our region. And, you know, we have this huge influx of population growth that's coming in, and we're just not prepared for it. And all income housing, you know, I specifically work in the workforce and attainable housing sector for housing, but we see it at all levels. And, you know, for us, we're really trying to focus on, you know, how do we make these deals go? You know, if you rewind 5-6 years ago, it's a whole different picture. And so we have to be thinking outside of the box on how we create these really innovative capital stacks in order to make these deals go, because 6 years ago, it's a different picture today. And so, you know, for us, we realized, and we knew the value of land, how important land is, right? Like the one thing that you have to have in order to build anything, whether it's housing or commercial or you know, any project that you're building, you have to have land. And so fortunately, you know, in 2016, we created our real estate arm, Harvest Hope Properties LLC. And then under that, we had enough fortitude from our board and, you know, from our leadership to create a land banking program. And so we started acquiring land outside of University of South Florida and really giving it back to the community and having that role reversal and saying, community, what do you want to do with the land? And that's how our development really started. And so we've been working on, you know, all those parcels of land, developing it. So we created a park. We're building a cultural campus to focus on the strengths of our community, which is our cultural diversity. We just opened 61 units called Uptown Sky, which on the bottom floor has workforce, it has youth programming. We have a swimming pool to teach our babies to swim, because we shouldn't have any deaths in Florida from drowning. We're also building townhomes for home ownership. So we're doing all of these things, but the challenge is we're running out of land, right? And we can't buy it the way we used to be able to buy it. So we really have to think creatively. And just the other piece that I would add to that's a challenge for us is the infrastructure. Infrastructure in Tampa, I mean, in different areas that you go, it looks a little bit different, but a lot of it's failing. And so for us, we're really trying to focus on, okay, we got to focus on buying land and creating developments, but you can't ignore shoddy infrastructure, right? You can't put developments on top of shoddy infrastructure. So we're trying to figure out, how do we, you know, build up that infrastructure? How do we address, you know, stormwater? How do we ensure that our residents get access to water and sewer? A lot of our residents don't have access to clean water and sewer, which is just unacceptable for us. And so we're trying to figure out how to do that. Today, I got to see sidewalks being put in. I mean, that's a big deal for us, putting in lighting in our community. So, you know, trying to figure out, how do we find these solutions to the challenges that we face, but find them in a way that's innovative and different from what it looked like before. And so that's what I think you're finding is different developments that pencil out, but it's because they created a different capital stack.
In many ways, you guys have summed it up perfectly, right? The three legs of economic success: where you work, how you get there, and where you live. Thank you so much to our panelists for sharing with us this afternoon.